Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a review for the 2020 US Open where Bryson DeChambeau is your winner. Now, I didn't play a lot of Bryson DeChambeau in my DFS lineups. In fact, I only played one lineup that had him in it. And that was primarily because of my process. So typically what I'll do is just grab a few guys, I would say no more than 3 from 10K and above, and cross out the rest. So the 3 that I pick are the ones that I kind of want to anchor my lineups in. Not all of them, not all of my lineups will be anchored by them, but a percentage that I figure out, kind of calculating it through my sweet spot model. Obviously I didn't select Bryson. That's why I only played him in one. All of my X'd out golfers, I'll play in at least one lineup and I'll throw them in a winner take all. Primarily because if I do miss out on someone winning, I at least have the opportunity to win, that winner take all money. That's not what happened this year. I didn't win anything with that one lineup I had Bryson in, but I did triple my money this week. And a lot of it had to do with the process. So if you watch the course fit video and the stat fit video, you would have seen, or at least I would have given you a bunch of good golfers like Louis Oosthuizen, Xander Schauffele. I even said Dustin Johnson in there and Rory McIlroy. Both of them had top 10 finishes. So you easily could have made money if you had the right selection. All in all, like I said, it was fantastic. 25% of my lineups made 6 of 6 through the cut. That is in comparison to just like 11 or 12% throughout the industry. So it looked good. Like I doubled it. And a lot of it had to do with the bucket system, with the course fit, with stat fit, that kind of thing. So I'll incorporate those in the video. So be sure to stick around for those. I have timestamps in the description, so you can skip to whatever part of the video you find important. And what I will cover also will be there. So you won't be blind to what I'm going to talk about. So let's go ahead, get into the spreadsheet. I have the results tab up. Now, Bryson won at 600. What I want to talk about is why I didn't play much of Bryson. If you followed along with Chad Eckert from the Fantasy Golf Pod and myself, in the notes section under my tab called SweetSpotDFS, I had said Bryson seems like a good course fit. However, I think his game is too one-dimensional. What I meant by that is I felt like he got too married and carried away to the whole fact of the bomb and gouge method. I think I forgot. He shapes shots both directions. He can hit draws, he can hit fades. I even saw him hit a low ball, like a flighted shot into a green. I forgot he had that skill set. And a lot of it was because after COVID, when he came back, as beefy Bryson, I missed out on that. It just seemed like he was just hitting the biggest draws over trees as possible. I didn't see any other shot shape than a draw. And then when it got close to the green, he didn't seem to have much control over his wedges. So I didn't like him at this US Open, especially when they talked about hitting fairways was going to be important. But throughout the week and even leading up to the tournament, a lot of people were talking about these are the smallest fairways or the most narrow fairways they've seen in a while, and that no one was going to be hitting fairways. I don't remember, I don't have the numbers of the guy who hit the most fairways, and of the top 10 golfers, I don't know who had the most there either. But if everyone else was missing fairways, I guess the advantage would be grab the guy who hits the ball the furthest, right? Which is a weird thing to think about post-tournament. If we would have had that strategy heading into the tournament, I think a lot of us probably would have said, that's crazy. We want someone who's in complete control of their game. And leading up to this, Bryson didn't seem like he was in complete control of his game. Now, if you watch Chad Eckert with his Fantasy Golf Pod, he talks a lot about how golfers sometimes will take, they'll enter a tournament, but they'll be messing around throughout that tournament, trying to get themselves ready for another tournament. Could that have been the case with Bryson during the playoffs? I'm not positive. I don't think so, because $15 million is a big deal, and winning the Tour Championship would have given them that. I don't know what he did during the Northern Trust to miss the cut, but a lot of that recent form also had me off of Bryson. But I think going forward, and this isn't recency bias saying this, it has a lot to do with my analysis of his game. When you can shape shots any direction and have really the strategy in place, like, should have known he was a complete strategist, you know, when it comes to the US Open. He took apart this golf course, this tournament, pretty easily. Should have known that, but forgot about it. Bryson going forward might be the best golfer on tour. And I honestly don't believe that's much of a leap. When, again, I'm going to keep going back to this. I'm going to keep pounding this. When you can shape shots the way Bryson can with his driver, hitting it, you know, with ball speeds over 185, that is insane. Like, and he's only going to increase that speed. He's talked about it. He's going to experiment with a longer driver coming up. If he's going to figure this stuff out, he is phenomenally straight for how far he hits the ball. He's going to tear apart these golf courses. There are going to be really good course fits for him. And this was one. You wanted a draw. He primarily hits a draw. But then there are holes that you want to hit a fade. And he was hitting fades on those. So that's my last little bit of Bryson. Seriously, him going forward, I don't know how we can't play him. Like, why we wouldn't play him, or why he wouldn't be the favorite, other than if a course requires very good short game. That's probably when we have to kind of say, okay, maybe we fade him. But if he's going to hit the ball 380 yards and there's a 440-yard hole that, you know, would require a very accurate shot from the fairway, this guy can just chip up and maybe chip again for a par if he needs to, or find himself in the best possible place to make a birdie. Like, it just, I don't know. I feel like the possibilities are endless for him. So that's my last little bit of Bryson. The rest of these golfers here, it was really interesting seeing Matthew Wolff, first-time contender at the US Open. Not so much just a contender, but a first-time player at the US Open. To contend as well as he did, phenomenal. And the rest of the guys up there, I think there's no surprise outside of Will Zalatoris and maybe Zach Johnson. Zalatoris, I know I had heard a lot about him. A lot of people in the DFS industry like him based off of what his Korn Ferry Tour results were, and just any of that, I don't know what else to call it, but like back alley knowledge transfer that people have. Zalatoris is a phenomenal ball striker. He is worth, you know, considerations on the PGA Tour going forward. I only saw him putt once, and I gotta say I'm not a huge fan. I don't know if that putting style is going to be, I don't know if it's going to work, you know, at a lot of tournaments, but the fact that he's such a good ball striker, you know, he's worth consideration. So I think he plays next week at Corrales Punta Cana. We shall see. Yeah, I'm not going to go through the rest of these guys. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the 2020 recent form tab, which we're going to talk about optimal lineup versus the GPP lineup that I entered, whatever the highest entry fee one was, this week being the $1 short game. I didn't like the $5 or the $3. Like, since football started, DraftKings just doesn't put a lot of interest into golf. And it kind of shows with the US Open. Kind of stinks. Like, this one should have been a high-priced one. I think the $5 GPP, you only won $50,000 or something like that. And I know it's still a lot of money, but if I'm going to enter a $5 tournament, I don't want it to be for $50,000. I want it to be for $200,000, you know? And likewise for the $3, which I think is a $20,000 pot, I want that to be for $100,000 or $200,000. So if I'm going to enter those tournaments, it's going to be at those first place prize money things, whatever you want to call it. So let's go ahead and get into this. Optimal lineup was actually the $1 GPP winning lineup. Crazy enough. You can see it on here. It's Bryson DeChambeau, Matthew Wolff, Louis Oosthuizen, Harris English, Xander Schauffele, and Will Zalatoris. Again, I already talked about Will Zalatoris. Pretty interesting. He did well. And at $6,700, it unlocked this guy playing, Xander and Bryson. It was $49,900 for that winning lineup. You know how much salary he used. So another tournament, another one really close to the $50,000 used or that you can use on DraftKings, another winner. And this one was just the optimal lineup. So all of that weird talk, or not really weird talk, but the stupid talk of leaving money on the table to, I guess, create non-duplicative lineups. I don't know. We've seen it too many times. There's a winning GPP lineup that is using nearly $50,000 every single week. Don't worry about ownership, honestly. If you want, even if you share first place, there is such a small chance that you don't have that duplicate lineup, but you still have a lot of those players. You just find the one better one that fits inside the salary that does well, or maybe the two different players. Either way, what I'm trying to get at, you don't have to be cute. Find your best players that you like. So again, this week, optimum lineup was found within the $1 GPP that I entered. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about, so we're going to go through the DK page here. I'm going to talk about the bucket system and primarily how well it did. I will say this. You see nothing but last week bucket ones on here. If we look at the top 10, all of them last week bucket ones. Why is that important? Or why is this something you guys should think about or look into? I'm going to go ahead, sort this out by last week buckets and then, last year buckets and last week. Let's go ahead, actually take out all of the last year or last week ones and look at the guys at the top of the leaderboard. Shane Lowry was a 4-4. We didn't see 4-4s inside the top 10. So I didn't play a lot of Shane Lowry. You can see a lot of my ownership over here. Why does the bucket system matter? Well, this is how you find out this information. Like, what did we miss out on? There weren't a lot that weren't last week ones. You can see here, 19 golfers were not last week ones. That's not a lot to choose from, but when you can, cross off these golfers that you see on the leaderboard right now, it just makes it that much more simpler. Now, sure, Lucas Glover finished 17th. That was good. Rafa was actually at the top of the leaderboard for a while, but fell off a little bit. Scored 54 points. I think he scored the most out of everybody. And 54 points wasn't going to hurt you. At $6,600, that was pretty good. So if I were to go ahead and select all, 54 points, that was nearly the same as Webb Simpson, who finished 8th. So yeah, playing Rafa, and actually maybe I should do it this way. So Rafa does creep up here, but you still see nothing but last week ones. Rafa being the only non-last week one, I don't think you should worry about playing someone like that. The bucket system in its entirety was fantastic. We wanted to play last year ones. We wanted to play them quite a bit. If we went back to the notes page where the bucket system is housed, when we look at the top here, here's the last week or the last year bucket one. When we look at the min max, the minimum I told you to play it was 1. I also warned you that it could be 0. We might not see any last year ones, but we also have to take into consideration when we do look at last year ones, we have to look at the skill level of these last year ones. And actually, let me go by salary and then go by this. So we look at last year ones. We had John Rahm, Rory, Xander, Webb, Scott, Rose, Hovland, and so on and so forth. Really, I would only focus on these 4 golfers. Those 4 golfers, pretty good. When we compare that to, last year 2s, we had Justin Thomas and Tony Finau. So we already have double the amount of golfers in last year 1s that I would, view as kind of elite golfers that we wanted to choose from. And we come down to last year 3s. Here are your top last year 3s. It started at 7,700 with Matthew Wolff. Last year 3s, all in all, sure, we do see some that did well, but all in all, not very good finishes. A lot of missed cuts. This would be a withdraw in the 3rd round. So I'm just going to give that a 90, although he did score decent points. Yeah, so many missed cuts for last year 3s. Again, when we look at this whole, I mean, if we were just to go by volume alone, the last year 3 bucket just dwarfed any other bucket. So we have 74 golfers that were last year 3s. So when you consider the entire field of 144 golfers, that's nearly half. So if you wanted to play the volume game, yeah, we were probably going to see a couple last year 3s inside the top 20, if not the top 10. But the skill level of the guys here, you can see $7,700. That was the highest priced DK golfer that was a last year 3, meaning there weren't many good golfers that were last year 3s. Coming down to the last year 4s, now this was the tricky one. We see so many last year 4s, like the skill level under the last year 4s. And even if you wanted to include, say, official world golf ranking. So if I were to hide all of this and just look at the world golf ranking, you had an average of 34.9. Like, it's impressive for the, how good of the golfers were in this bucket. But if we go, I mean, you can see how many guys finished inside the top 10. Sure, we had some guys finish just outside the top 10, but that was the tricky thing. If we go back to the notes page and look at last year 4s, we see there's a minimum of 1. Again, this is within the top 10. A minimum of 1, a maximum of 2. That still actually played out. And that's the other thing when you look at the bucket system. We have to look at the skill level within each of these buckets and try to determine, will this, outperform what we've seen in the past? Now, for a lot of you guys, what is a last year 4? A last year 4 is a golfer who missed the cut the year before. Was 20 to 40th. That was my bad. I can obviously go here and show you it's this range of golfers who finished this within, they're golfers who finished within this range the year before that they played. So again, these were 20 to 40 place finishes, max of 2. 2 guys finished inside the top 10, one of them being the winner. But you couldn't play both of them. You only play one. So it also just goes to prove that using the bucket system would have narrowed how many times you would have paired any of these guys up. What it did for me was allowed me to look at the salary. Like I told you, I crossed people off. Well, here are the crosses over here. I crossed off a bunch of golfers that I just didn't like, that I didn't think were going to play well. Sure, I crossed off Bryson, who ended up winning, but I also was able to cross off Colin Morikawa. I didn't like his course fit here. And because he was in this pool with the rest of these other good golfers, I just chose them over him. I didn't choose Colin, or I didn't choose, say, I didn't choose Tony Finau over Colin Morikawa. I chose Dustin Johnson over Morikawa. These were the golfers I was looking at. So this is when I select golfers, I choose from their buckets, which ones I like the most, and I play from there. Now, there might be some value plays, like, say, Patrick Reed, who was leading this tournament for a long time. I liked Patrick Reed, and I played him in a bunch of lineups. You can see what my ownership, these weren't the actual percentages, but these were how many lineups were my minimum of how much I wanted to play him. So out of 100 lineups, I wanted to play 15 of DJ. Again, I crossed out Bryson. I played him in one lineup. You can see I played 31 lineups of Jason Day, 21 lineups of Hideki, 16 of Reed. I played 18 of Tyrrell Hatton. He was really the only guy that screwed me of guys that I played to not make the cut. And if you were with me during my course fit strategy, all those videos, you knew I wasn't playing a lot of Tiger Woods. But then we come down to the 5 ones, and as the number increases, the less I like a player, and the less the bucket system likes a player. Sure, we have one guy who finished inside, well, we have 2 guys who finished inside the top 10. And really, it would have been beneficial to play both of them because their salaries were pretty good. If we went to this last week or the last year 5 bucket, your minimum was 0 and it happened 3 times. However, we also have an instance where it happened once, twice, and 3 times. So when we look at the ranges, if you were going to play a last year 5, don't be afraid to play another one. You know, in the 3 tournaments or the 3 years where there was at least one last year 5, well, this is kind of stupid. Obviously, you can see on the screen, 2 out of the 3 years that a last year 5 did finish inside the top 10, there were multiple, you know, or however I meant to say that. 2 of 3 last year 5, or 2 of 3 years where there were last year 5 that finished inside the top 10, it happened more than once. So I don't know if that was a good way, but again, the maximum was 3, minimum was 0. So if you were to look at this, 50% of your lineups you didn't want to play a last year 5. I think that's fine. And of the other 50% you wanted to play, 66% of that you wanted to play at least, you know, another last year 5, which when you do the math, it ends up being 2 out of 6 years that you want. You know, if you were to do 2 out of 6, 33% of your lineups would have at least 2 last year 5s in them, maybe 3. And if that was the case, like you would have done well. 33% of your lineups, say maybe half of those had Harris English and Zach Johnson in it, you're looking good. You obviously have to match that up with the other ones, but either way. Again, having a hot, you know, last year 5 allowed me to really fade a lot of these golfers. And I use a percentage based off of, you know, I use this percentage over here, 9%. So I make 100 lineups, 600 positions are within those 100 lineups. 600 times 9.09, or well, 9% basically, gets me a number. I think it ends up being 45. I'll have to double check. I could go by this right here. Ends up being 55. I don't know how correct that is. I mean, honestly, 10% is pretty, yeah, it would be 54 lineups. 54 is what I wanted. So, or 54 positions. Obviously, you can see you can X out some of these guys. You can even that distribution out, you know, or you can go heavy on some guys. I went heavy on Harris English and Daniel Berger, none of which hurt me. So, you know, the process was good when it came to that. Now, the fun thing is, look at the last year 6s. How many people were how many people favorited Tommy Fleetwood? Like, he was touted quite a bit. His great finish the week before at a European event. Well, if you looked at the bucket system, it would tell you don't play much of Fleetwood. In fact, don't play a lot of the last year 6s. Again, Rafa Cabrera-Bello did well, scored, you know, a decent amount of points. But for the most part, if you would have faded this group entirely, I know for a while you would have been excited with Rafa, but he did fade. He did not finish inside the top 10. That's exactly what the bucket system is looking for. Golfers within inside the top 10. So all in all, the bucket system was awesome. And again, if we go ahead, sort this out, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 golfers who were last year 1s inside the top 10. We only have 2 last year 4s inside the top 10. We have 2 last year 2s, 2 last year 3s, and 2 last year 5s. Pretty good. Obviously, the last year 1 was the favorite bucket, was the favorite. So nothing really improves and nothing really decreases except for last year 6s. So if I were to add that to the bucket system right here, these percentages, these rankings are going to stay the same. Actually, the last year 1s are going to get a little bit more of a boost to show you how important last year 1s are. But either way, the whole conclusion of this bucket system I want to tell you guys is the bucket system itself shows you, you know, kind of an historical amount of, how do I want to say this? The bucket system just shows you which buckets have shown up more so inside the top 10. It should give you more confidence of a player that you like. It should also give you more confidence in a player you dislike, as in don't play them. You have to also marry up, you know, what the bucket system tells you with the skill level within each bucket. So always keep that in mind. In a way, when we look at, you know, the last week 1s were dominated by golfers basically over $9,000. He had 9-7 Webb, 10-5 Rory, 10-1 Xander. You can't fit those three golfers in a lineup and do well. But you could add Louis into the mix. Louis with Xander is totally fine if you started right here. If you wanted to go to Rory, sure, but it doesn't leave you a lot. I mean, you have 21,800 to work with. Could we fit a bunch of these 7K golfers in? This is 50,500, so let's take Harris English out because we don't like last year fives. Maybe we add, well, can we add Zach? Yeah, so Zach Johnson works. You know, maybe we substitute Harris English for Zach Johnson, $7,100. Maybe we take him out and we're trying to find another good golf. Maybe our 2-1 is Alex Noren. That's 49,700. That would be a good replacement player. We don't get the winner with this lineup. However, we still do pretty decent, right? You're probably winning a lot of money no matter what when it comes to the bucket system. Now, if we were to do this, you know, whatever, my favorite play would have been Xander. And let's just look at what a lineup would have been. So if we were started with the last year one, let's go with Xander and Louis. Louis, I liked quite a bit. You can see 30 lineups that I wanted to play him in. So we go there. We have $8,000 left over. Let's go ahead and just throw Bryson. Let's say Bryson's our favorite 4-1. We're not going to play any more 4-1s than that. We're left with $7,400. Like, totally doable. And let's say, you know, man, I do want to play Tony Finau, but let's sort this back out by our twos and find, I mean, I would have went by salary. Who was my favorite 2-1? Thomas Peters. Perfect. I love Thomas Peters. So we put Peters there. Let's find a 3-1. Well, let's just put Wolf. I know I'm cherry picking, but who better than to put Wolf? $7,700. When we're looking at $7,800 left over, why not? So right here, right now, this lineup itself is pretty fire. Obviously, like we're winning lineup, or we're winning a lot of contests with this lineup. But let's say, okay, who is my favorite golfer at 7,800? Now I would just discredit not so much discredit, but just get past the bucket system, not look at that, and just look at salary. Could have went with Paul Casey. Like, we have $7,900 left. Paul Casey would have been a choice. We could have played another 1-1 in Gary Woodland. Obviously, he didn't make the cut. I mean, maybe we liked Harris English. That's how we get on Harris English, is the fact that, okay, we have $7,900 left. Wow, Harris English has actually been really good, you know, recent form. Let's play him. Or we can look at, you know, who might be paired up with one of our golfers that we like. So I have the games set up here. I'm looking for someone at $7,900. Who can I play of whom I'm already playing? You know, or in the group of golfers I'm already playing. Maybe just to make this faster, what I'm going to do is look at the guys. Who was Xander playing with? I think he was playing with Billy Horschel, right? 42. So yeah, Billy Horschel, $7,500. Perfect. So there we go. Pairing up tee times, Xander and Billy, and then the rest of them are just, you know, bucket system favorites, basically. But that's how the bucket system could have worked for the US Open. Actually, let's look how many points this would have been. So Horschel at 44.5. We went with Horschel, and then a bunch of guys here up at the top, right? Oh, shoot. Do I have Horschel still? No. So 44.5 with Horschel, 102, 86, 76, 69. Who was our last guy? Thomas Peters, 23, 44. So that would have been 422.5 points, 40 points behind the optimal lineup in first place. But, and how much? I'm just going to look at DraftKings on a separate page that you guys can't see. So we're 422.5. So what would 422 have gotten us? So right now, 7th place was 422 points. So obviously we beat that by half a point. That was 7th place. So we'd be solo 7th. And in that, we would have won 250 bucks. But obviously that is off of $1. So not terrible. 7th place in the GPP would have been pretty darn good. So bucket system, not a bad place to start. But you also could have got on the bucket system with the golfers that were in the optimal lineup. We had 2 3-1s as opposed to just one, but we did have 2 1-1s. We had a 5-1 and a 4-1. We didn't have a 2-1. You didn't need a 2-1. If we went to the notes and look at the 2-1s, there was a moment where 0 showed up. So maybe this was a lineup that you just didn't want to play a 2-1 in. So either way, it worked out pretty decently. Let's see, what else do I want to cover? I mean, course fit, the golfers that I talked about with course fit, I mean, this guy draws the golf ball, draws the golf ball, draws the golf ball. I'm pretty sure Harris English draws it. Xander draws the golf ball. I like Dustin. I told you he can shape shots both directions. Now, he went on record and saying he doesn't like to hit draws with his driver, but I know he can. I don't know about Will Zalatoris. Webb Simpson draws the golf ball. Justin Thomas does not. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what Zalatoris does. Webb Simpson draws it. Justin Thomas fades. McIlroy hits a draw. Finau fades. Zach Johnson hits a draw. Let's just actually not count him. So of the 12 guys who finished inside the top 10, only 4 of them faded the golf ball. And in the course fit video, we wanted golfers who drew the golf ball, who moved it right to left. It had a slight advantage on this course. And as you can see, the guys that do primarily hit that draw or that type of shot shape finished well at this tournament. We even see Patrick Reed just down here who draws the golf ball. And then admittedly, more guys hit fades down here underneath. But either way, draws benefited it. So if you watch course fit video, the guys I had you that I talked about, it was Rory. Actually, I have it written down. It was Rory, DJ, Jason Day, and Xander Schauffele. So we have Rory, Xander, and DJ here in the top 5. Now, obviously, Jason Day did not do well, but he did make the cut. So those 4 guys did. My stat fit was just golfers who had top 20 stats. That was something I looked into. We didn't want anything less than 2. Now, sure, Zalatoris had 0, and he was in the optimal lineup. But for the most part, all the golfers inside the top 10 had at least 2 top 10 stats, and that was something that I thought was important. So, of the stat fit golfers, I had Xander, I had Patrick Reed, I had Hideki Matsuyama, DJ, Webb Simpson, and Paul Casey. So all of my stat fit guys, these are who I told you at the end of the video who I liked. All of them finishing inside the top 10. So again, wrapping this all around, it played pretty decently. And again, my week was very good. And I'm going to leave it at that. So hopefully you guys watched and hopefully you guys benefited from the stat fit video, the course fit video, and the strategy video. I think going forward, I might change up how I'm going to do this. I might actually include a live video on Wednesdays and probably take out the stat fit video, and I might combine the course fit and stat fit into just I don't even know what I would call it, a tournament fit. I'm not sure. And just might just be a preview video like I've done in the past. But yeah, trying to make things a little bit quicker, a little bit faster. Also, maybe a little less time restrictive for me. So pay attention to that. I will have updates on my Twitter. I'll also have updates for you guys as I make videos. Next week is the Corrales Punta Cana tournament. It is typically an alternate event that usually goes side by side with a WGC event or some other world event, like a major. So I thought about it. And I've came to the decision that I'm just not going to create a video for that. So you won't see anything video-wise from me, but I might post some stuff on Twitter. So if you are interested in what I'm thinking about or who I care about, please follow my Twitter. I will have my favorite plays there. But for the most part, it's going to be a light week for me. I'm going to actually spend the time off in creating a database so I can pull data a little bit easier and then also have better stats for you guys. So it should be a little bit more fun. Should be the videos will be faster. They'll be a little bit more informative, probably give you a little bit more stats, that kind of stuff. And then obviously going forward, I'm trying to create something with Chad. Hopefully turns into, a website, hopefully a lineup creation, there'd be that site on there, there'd be our picks, that kind of stuff. So in order for that to happen, we have to create a database. So that's what I'm going to be working on. And again, having the time off is just going to be good regardless. I'll be able to fine tune a little bit of this stuff since we didn't have much of an off season. But yeah, again, follow me on Twitter for all my updates. And hopefully you guys do well if you're going to play the Punta Cana tournament. But other than that, I have no other updates. I am sorry if we didn't get through some of the stuff that I typically do, like, reviewing tea time pairings. You can obviously see up here, some of it mattered. I'm highlighting some right now. That was pretty good. Everyone else that I liked is highlighted in green. Those were golfers I would have wanted to play. So either way, hopefully you guys followed me during that lineup construction video, or the strategy video. You would have seen the tea time pairings and you can see how they did well here. But either way, again, sorry if I didn't go over some things. Just trying to keep this video a little short and then obviously give you those updates. So again, thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you during the next tournament not named the Corrales Punta Cana. All right, see you later.